I'm out with etrailer. If you like the shade, but you don't want to get too far away from your vehicle and you want to look good while you're doing it, then the Thule OutLand awning is going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. So I think this is going to be for anyone who's doing a lot of tailgating, because you want to make sure you're going to be close by. You want to make sure everyone's going to stay nice and cool, especially if you have the food by your vehicle. This is going to make sure no one gets sunburned and everyone's going to enjoy their time. Or if you're someone who does a lot of camping and you have most of your gear inside of your vehicle, you can kind of establish a home base where you can stay nice and cool. And what's really nice about all of this is you're going to look good while you do it, because we're going to have this very nice canvas design to our awning. This is a little bit better of a look than some of the other ones I've seen. And what's cool about that too is when you roll this back up, it's going to have this solid metal casing, which compared to some of those more flimsy canvas bags, in my opinion, looks better. So what we're going to be focusing on today is what stands out to me about this and how much shade we're actually getting in its size. Then we'll go over the components and the setup process for when you want to use this, and then I'll give you my final thoughts and then show you how to install it on your vehicle. With this awning we have today, this is going to be 8 feet by 7 feet and 6 inches. So that kind of gives you an idea of how big it is, but I got a couple chairs and a cooler here to kind of represent that a little bit better. So it's a little bit later in the day, and this is how much room we have here. Now, if it was more midday, I could probably stand right underneath here. And this, you're probably going to be able to get 4 chairs underneath here, or even 5 people if you're all standing up. So it does give you a decent amount of space. Now, if this isn't enough for you, we are going to have another size above this on our website if you need a little bit more room. It's going to be made up of 3 parts. We're going to have the legs, the awning itself, and the brackets that mount it to your roof. So let's start with the legs. These legs are going to be telescoping, so they go up pretty high. If you don't want it that high, you can simply lower this down some. And what's neat about this is you can put them at different heights. So if I want that side higher, in case it's raining outside and I want that rain to flow off from one side and not build up in the center and stretch this out over time, I have that option. We're also going to have another point on this arm here, and you can actually tighten this one up and make sure you have a really snug fit so it looks good on top of it here. And with this awning, you can kind of see the design of it. It's going to have these stripes that go down. It's going to be this kind of greenish tint to it. I think this looks pretty good, and it's going to be relatively thick. That's great because it's going to prevent sun from seeping through. Now, something I did notice when I was rolling it up earlier is it gets a little toasty. So when you're rolling it up, try not to keep your hands on top of it, because the top surfaces is going to be hot. It might burn your hands a bit. So when you are rolling up, kind of do it from the bottom. And moving to the very far end, we're going to have the canister itself and the brackets that hold it into place. Now, this canister is going to be pretty sturdy. It's going to be made from this aluminum, and it's going to have this black coating on the very top of it. And typically, this usually gets kind of hot. Right now, I can keep my hands on it. It feels warm, but it's holding that temperature fairly well. Now, the way it's going to mount to your roof is via a roof rack. So make sure you have one of those. And it works best with Thule roof racks because it's going to be the same manufacturer. But depending on what type of bar you have, whether it be a arrow bar or a different type of bar or a square bar, with most square bars, you're going to have to clamp this around here. And it does come with the hardware for that. Now, if you have something with a T-channel up top, most cases it'll work. You can actually check the owner's manual to make sure if it's going to be compatible with your setup or not. You notice we do have this cap here, and it's going to have a metal lock core here. That's going to give you more security. And the one thing I will say about this can be a little awkward to reach and get up here. And then when you do try to take it off or put it back on, I find that I have to put a decent amount of pressure to actually get this to lock in place. But to give you a better understanding on how all these features are going to work together, I can set it up now for you. First thing we want to do is press these buttons on either side. That's going to lift it up. And I'm going to get this out of my way now. We're going to just open up these arms just by pulling on them. Sometimes you might have to wiggle a bit. And I'm going to leave my arms kind of slanted in a bit, and you'll see why in a second. Here's the second one. There we go. I'm going to let it roll down. I'll support it with my thumbs, but also these arms help support it too. And what we can do at this point is extend these out the rest of the way. And continue to let it down. At some point, you're going to get to the very end of it. We're going to have these legs that I'm just going to pull on, and these come out. Just let that down for both of them. And just for now, I'm just going to keep them in the lowest position. The way we can lock this into place is we're going to have this lever here, and that we're just going to push all the way up. You might have a little bit of resistance at first. There we have it. Same thing for the other side. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to take our arm. We're going to have a hole right here in the side. I'm just going to line this up. If this isn't lining up like it is right now, what I'm going to do is just retract this arm a bit by pressing on this tab right there. You can kind of see it. Once I press on this, it should retract a little bit. I don't need it to retract a lot. And now we'll just push against it till we have a little bit of tension on there. We'll do that on the other side too. Now this is looking pretty alright at the moment, but it's kind of hard to get underneath it, so we're going to raise it up. So what we're going to do is I'll typically just put my foot down on the base of it and undo this lever over here and push it up. I'm just going to put it in the highest position now. Right now I got a little bit of tension on it because it's a little bit tight, so I'm just going to stop at this point, leave it here, and lift up the other side. There we go. Now we're just going to situate the legs into a spot they feel good at. And you'll notice that one of our sides is hanging down a little bit low, so let's tighten that up. I'm just going to reach over here. We're going to have that lever that we used to retract it. This time we're going to pull away, and that's going to make it a little bit tighter. We'll just keep going until we have a pretty good fit up here. Once you like the way your awning feels, then we'll just come by with these little stakes, push those into the ground, and you're going to have 2 stakes per post. And once you get everything staked down, you can set up your chairs, take a seat, and enjoy that new shade. So in my opinion, I think this is going to be a solid choice because, again, it's going to look really nice, not just when you're using it and you're all set up at the campsite, but also when you're driving around, because it's going to be in one neat package compared to some other ones that have the canvas bags, which in my opinion don't look as nice. Now it's also going to be really sturdy, but that sturdiness is going to lead to it being a little bit heavier, so you got to be mindful if you're putting anything else on your roof so you don't exceed its capacity. And the last thing I do need to note about it is sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to work with when you're setting up or tearing down, because we do have a lot of buttons and levers. And if you're doing this by yourself, especially when you're tearing down, trying to balance all of that can feel like you're juggling. Even if you have your kid to help you out, just hold something in place, it's going to go a long way. Curious to see what the installation of this one looks like? Just stay tuned, we'll walk you through it. So the first part we're going to start off with is going to be the bracket. Now you already have this assembled before you actually get this on top of your roof. And it's also going to depend on what type of crossbar you have. Really, if you have a square bar, then you're going to want to use more of the clamp-on style, but if you have anything with the T-channel, you'll be able to go with this style, which is going to be much quicker in my opinion. So what we're going to do here is just line up these blocks and push these into this channel here. Just do that, and then you can do that on the other side. You're going to just tighten them down a little bit. This should only require a few turns. Now right now I'm using a 10mm socket and wrench, but your kit will come with a tiny wrench. I'll show you what that looks like now. And I think this is fine. It can be a little bit awkward to use, but this will actually let you know when you make a full turn or not, but I'd recommend, if you can, use a socket and wrench. And now we're gonna grab our awning and make sure the backside is facing up with that channel. And we're gonna grab a square washer that's gonna go with our carriage bolt. We're just gonna push this right into place, just like that. We'll put it in another one just like this. And then now we're gonna grab a friend to help us put this on our roof. And there's a few things we wanna make sure of when we're putting it up there. We wanna make sure it's right side up, so you should be able to read Thule on here, and that our bolts are roughly lined up with our bracket. Now when we get this up there, we're not gonna line up the bolt, put the bolts in first. We actually just gotta put it on these lips here at the very top. So we can do that now, just like lifting it up and holding it at an angle and dropping it down. Now you might need to reposition those bolts, but this whole process of putting on that ledge first is gonna help make this go a little bit smoother. With that done, we're then gonna grab a flat washer. Then we're gonna grab a nut and secure that down. We're just gonna be loosely installing this at the moment. And there we have it. There's two things we wanna think about, and that's how it's sitting on the end of our crossbars. If it's really not sitting on too much, we want more support, so we'll have to push this in. So it can kind of sit in the halfway point of this awning. I'd recommend pushing it a little bit further in, kind of like what we have on this side here, where it's almost being completely supported by it. Once you've done that, because everything should still be loose, we can push this forward some, because I don't want this much sticking out, because we are going to have a minimum recommendation for the backside of it. You can find that in your instructions, but that's going to be a little bit over 13 inches for the max. But that's also going to depend on what size awning you're using. So if you're using the size awning we're using right now, it's actually going to be a little bit over 17. So I can check that real quick by going to the end of our crossbar or this bracket and measuring back here. Right now I'm at 18, so I'll probably push it in a little bit more to about the 16 marker. Now this part can be a little bit confusing or vague in the instructions. I think the biggest takeaway here is just to make sure that your tailgate or your liftgate is going to clear and we're not going to have any contact back here. Now we can get down to tighten everything down. What I recommend first though is this one that we just installed. Once there's a few turns on here, then we'll come down to these two bottom bolts and we'll fully tighten this down. Now you are going to have a recommended specs in your instructions, so I'd recommend going by that. Now we'll move our way up to the very top one and we'll secure that down. Again, recommended what's in the instructions for how tight it is. And once this one's done, we'll move to the one right below it that we started with. We're gonna move over to putting our end caps up. So let's start off with the lock cores. You're gonna have this master key. It's gonna be one by itself. So we're gonna retract some of these, allowing us to put this into the unlock position. Kind of have to line it up perfectly so it goes in right. I'll try spinning it around. There you go. With that done, you won't be able to lock it. You'll have to remove this key. And with this one, these other keys, we can lock it. It's a good idea just to make sure it will lock into place before we get up on our roof. There we go. Put it into place just by lining it up with the contours here, and then with it roughly in place, we can grab our keys and lock it up. We're good to go. But with everything tightened down, you're going to be good to go. And of course, if you guys have any other questions, please let us know here at eTrailer. And again, I'm Matt, and thanks for watching.